It is Modern Craftsman Monday, and I just almost brought a throwback intro. We are back. We took a couple weeks off for the holidays, so Happy New Year, everyone. It is Tyler's birthday this week, so make sure you guys have wished him a happy birthday. But this is another mental health episode. We talk about work-life balance, and I mean,
work-life.
Correct.
Don't know if there's a balance.
Yeah. So we and John brings up two great words, an integrator or a segmentor, and we talk about our thoughts on each other and ourselves and whether or not we believe that we are in one of those categories and or both. Mm-hmm. Plus, we answer a question at the very end of this podcast. If you guys left a question in the reviews, make sure you listen all the way to the end.
And I feel like I should note that the podcast where I got a lot of this from is the Adam Grant Work-Life Podcast.
That was a nice little plug.
It's a TED Talk. I listened to both seasons.
Now you're showing off.
No, it's very good. It's good. I like it.
Take a listen, guys.
So I got lots of notes here.
Yeah, you want to talk about work life. I want to talk about something different.
Look, dude, we can do whatever you want, baby.
No.
I just feel like it's on my mind. You started this.
You have a book of work life notes with drawings and Venn diagrams. For everyone on the podcast, take a look at the... Oh, wait. They can't see.
It's legit.
I was driving. I shouldn't say that. I was listening and thinking and pulling over.
Was it Panera?
Yeah, for a minute. It's weird that they know me there. Are you getting your chunky cookie? Yeah, you know what? just give it to me. Just give it.
If I don't order it, it's not bad for me, right?
If she just hands it to me?
If it comes with the sandwich, it's okay?
No, I'm literally at the kiosk, and there'll be a whole line, and the woman will be like, are you getting your chunky cookie? I said, yes, I am. Thank you. And she just goes over, stops what she's doing with the whole line.
It's like when I get my coffee. I go, and it's a madhouse, and like there's two people in there, and one dude will look at me like, I got you, Nick. Hold on. And he goes over, he goes, you ordered it, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're good. See ya. I'm like, you're the man. Love you.
You don't say love you to the
I do.
Coffee guy.
I do. I'm serious.
I mean,
That's a
love
problem.
that dude.
I don't go anywhere that consistently, probably on purpose.
I would love to make coffee at home. I just can't get it to taste good.
Oh, you can work at
We
it.
have
Every
a
time
pour over that's pretty good.
Huh? Pour
We
over?
have pour over that's pretty good.
We've probably had a half a dozen different coffee makers or systems. I don't know. And every time I drink it, I'm like, it tastes like water that has cigarettes in it.
So we have it's
good.
just like the
That's
glass.
stuff.
Terrible.
It's like a glass, almost beaker type thing.
Yeah.
And then there's a paper filter, and then you just get whatever coffee and grind it. And then there's a special pot that you boil.
Yeah, over it. Yeah,
there's a very specific temperature that it comes to, and then you just pour it over top, and it's good.
I mean, she has one that you pour. It's like a kettle with a metal strainer in it, and you can't even see the holes in the strainer. And she pours the water over, and then pours a cup. But at the end of the cup, there's like mud in it.
That's like percolator.
I'm like, why is there mud?
No, you could. I forget what brand ours is. It's pretty good though, and it's very easy. I mean, it takes a little bit of time to make it.
Yeah. I'm usually rushing out of the house. I'm also tiptoeing because my children sleep till 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Chemex, that's the brand that we have.
I've seen those.
It's pretty good. You can buy whatever coffee you want for it.
I think I don't know. Someone was saying it's because at a coffee shop the water is filtered, like to a level that you can't filter at home. So that's why it always tastes better. I'm lying. Actually, that was on Shark Tank. There was a guy that said that, and he had this new machine that could filter water that way, but you had to buy distilled water.
I don't even use distilled water when they tell me to use distilled water.
I don't even know what distilled water is.
A rebel. I don't know. I think people are going to be amped about us coming back after a break and listening to Coffee Talk.
Yeah.
I think coffee. Well, you don't
I'm
drink
not a coffee.
John,
This is
John backed up from the mic. He's like, I don't drink coffee.
Yeah, I don't do. I don't do caffeine. Actually,
Well,
I think I do
thought
caffeine.
about for a New Year's resolution, like, oh, I'll cut back on coffee, and it was like it went into my head and then back out of my head. I
At
was
the
like,
coffee shop
screw
in
that.
line.
Yeah. Do you do the resolution thing?
No.
Do you, Joe?
No, I just think New Year's is another day.
Right. I do like I do well. I said right, like I agree. It is, but at the same time, I feel like because we do the break for holiday, but like it's come back, like it's refreshed. It's a new year. Let's make the changes that we want.
But as a business owner, I feel like you're making these decisions like a couple months ago at the end of your fiscal year that you're like, all right, what do I need to change?
Right.
Like that, I feel like I did this whole thing a while ago, and now I just get a day off to enjoy with family. I literally went to work that day, and I was like, okay, I forgot no one works and nothing's open.
Right.
Like I drove around, I was like, this place is dead.
I drove around. I was like, I'm gonna go get my coffee, which you weren't doing, and I couldn't.
I went to Staples and got like address things. So I'm sending out New Year's cards. They're coming.
Now?
Yeah, I feel like nobody
New
really
year,
wants
new-
you in their
new vintage.
house. We've always
No.
taken off like in between Christmas and New Year's, and I don't necessarily make resolutions, but I feel like it's the downtime you sit there and just stew and dwell about everything in your life and what you need to change.
It is
But it's
weird
not
that
like,
it is weird how it's like you said the fiscal year. It's like the pivoting point. But in my mind, and I don't know why, but I still like the way I picture a calendar is still like a school year.
yeah.
Where I feel like August is where the calendar stops and September is where it starts. Like, do you? I'm trying to put that into words, but like that's the way I visualize like the year as like if someone drew it out, where it would you would start back at zero.
But like I never look at a start and stop. I look at it more like the what do I want to say? The production time of the year. This is the slowest time,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's hard to find your rhythm in this time of year,
Right.
because you're hit with way more obstacles, and the day is shorter, and it's a lot more frustrating. I feel like this time of year,
Because you want it to be better, and you're doing it, and you feel as though by working, you're taking advantage of everyone that's not working, and at that point, you're not getting anything done.
But I'm also constantly aggravated because I know what the production would be on a normal day in like May.
I remember you talked about it before, like early on in the podcast, is that you won't. You were talking about starting a job in the winter or starting a job like in November. It's like it's pointless.
It's really tough. I mean,
It's like a broken pencil. Pointless, you know?
I was like, he's gonna elaborate. on
yeah,
that,
I was
right?
like, I'm gonna leave that alone. No, I mean we do it. We're in the middle of doing stuff, but it's just it's tough. Like when you're talking to a client, you want to be as real as possible, but it's like not everyone's gonna be as detailed and real as you are. It's like, yeah, well, is there an issue with like the biggest thing is you get is there an issue with frost? Can we dig?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, think of frost of like a pond freezing. Like how often are we skating on ponds when you got 6 inches of ice? That's how much frost you have in the ground. Like just for a common person. So most of the time, a big cat will blast through that frost in a heartbeat. So that's not going to slow us down. That part isn't. Like the actual Mother Nature is not going to. It's just the time that we have daylight in a day.
Yeah.
And then just the cold and sleet and everything else and rain, it prevents us. We've had an open septic system for, I don't know, 2 months now because it's been snowing or sleeting or something to get our final inspection. So it's like that just prevents us from closing it up and being done with it. And it's just tough to do.
What'd you guys do over the break as far as all the guys working?
We worked. Let's say the first week, Christmas was on a Wednesday. So Christmas Eve, we gave them a half day. We gave out bonuses. We didn't even get together. Ben and I was trying to have lunch with the guys and give them the bonuses together, and that just didn't shake out. So we both did it. Ben took off Tuesday because he had to go to Maine. And Trevor got to do whatever he wanted that day, cover if he wanted to. But we gave them a half day before Christmas off. And if they wanted that Thursday off, they could take it. Or if they want to extend that weekend, they could work Thursday, whatever they really just said, hey, whatever you want to do. Just keep people on point. I'll be around. And I think John was going to take my guy. I was going to take Thursday off. Then he texted me Christmas Day. I was like, yeah, I'm going to come in tomorrow and bounce out and then bounce out Friday. So we took like half.
Yeah.
So, and then same thing went for New Year's. So it's
yeah.
not super productive.
I feel like the holidays being Wednesday,
Yeah.
that's so tough.
It was, yeah. But I mean, we had guys that wanted to work on every day. So it was like we had
subs.
It felt good, yeah, because we had full crews on every site. When you would, like, I don't know, there's something that like gives you, like, fills your tank when you're driving by other sites that like maybe start at the same time as you and they're all dead and you're like, ha ha ha, I got you. I got you. I got guys, you don't. And that was fun because you know that these guys want to work for us and keep things going. So it was good. I mean, but we didn't hammer on anybody. You know, it was just like, hey, we have an opportunity to take these 2 weeks where not a lot's going to get done, get our rough inspections right before that. Foam guys will definitely show. So they showed, they foamed while it was break. Then we came back to get our sign-offs, and now we're boarding. So, like, that, I feel like you could gain a good 2 weeks of momentum if we used it. So, I mean, I totally love the fact you take a week off.
Yeah.
I just, I feel like I would have resentment built up inside of me that later on in that project, I'd be like, God, I wish I had that week. Like, I keep track tally in my head.
Yeah.
And it's just, until we get more comfortable, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of forced because of the amount of work we do in Boston and in the condos. It's like they don't want us in that building anyway. So it's like, what, half the team can work, or it's like Tyler said, like some people don't want us in the house during the holidays. You know, we had probably one job that we could have really worked on, but you know,
put all 15 there.
But it wasn't even like we wouldn't have got it. Like, it wouldn't have been productive anyway.
Yeah.
It would have been.
It's like starting up and stopping, and then with the holidays and half days, and like, I feel like you're paying. Even I think on smaller jobs, it's tougher too because, you know, on our jobs we're in somebody's house, so it's like one of our customers was like, I can't have you start until after this date, and you could be here this many days, and then you have to come back, and it's like, all right, I'll just go do something else.
Right.
Yeah,
I feel like, I mean, John, you have the advantage of, you know, you're focused on production because it's a whole house. Like, you're absolutely taking advantage of that, as you should, and competing against the guys that are shut down. But I think in remodeling, it's totally harder.
Agreed. I mean, the remodel we have, that's the bathroom, they were away, which we just totally got lucky on that. They went away for the holidays, so we still kept in there and hammered out. So now we just have glass enclosure and cleaning this week. Yeah. So again, in my eyes, we gained a little bit while they were away. So it worked out for us. I can't say it's going to be that way every year. Yeah. Especially as we do more remodels and still custom stuff.
Do you that was a question I actually had for you. Do you want to do more remodel?
I guess it's opportunities.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we have 2 good size remodels coming up. One's like 900,000. The other one's 6, I think.
Yeah.
Both in Wellesley, both cool, both with great architects. So I guess it has to check off a couple of boxes. Not just, you know, oh, it's the remodel.
Right.
I know it sounds pretentious, but it's right next to one of the other jobs we have. It's with a great architect that we'd like to get in with. It's a cool design that I'd like to see created. Yeah. And I'm in. Like, originally we said no to it because they want us to bid it. And I was like, I just don't want to. I don't have time. I go, my subs don't have time. I don't have time. And the time frame you gave it to us on with the amount of details in the prints, it's not realistic anyways. I'm better off guessing at it. Right. And they were like, well, you know, don't bother. And I was like, cool. Like, so we're on the same page. Yeah, right. And then, you know, 2 weeks went by and the homeowner pulled onto the job site. It's like, hey, I really want you to bid it. I'm like, dude, give me some more details and some more time. And I can poke away at it. Not meaning it's not a priority, but I'll send it out. I'll chase guys for a week. They'll get me new numbers back in another week. And then we'll compile it in the 3rd week. That's what I'm looking at. And some of them are still going to be square foot guesses because there's no details. Mm-hmm. And I did that, and it's funny, like I don't know if you guys do this with a remodel, is I totally guess in the beginning of where it's going to fall. Yep. Like he asked me on the point, he's like, what do you think this is going to be? I'm like, I don't know, 890,000 is my guess right now. And he's like, I'll cut that check right now. And I was like, okay. It's not like a firm thing.
For the full 890?
Yeah. I was like, no. And then it came in pretty much where it priced out.
Should have taken that check.
But I would still do cost plus.
No, I know.
Because everything evolves. Like even the bathroom one, we went in there and painted the whole house. It's funny. This is the one you got the call on as well.
Yeah.
And we painted the whole house, and I'm walking the house, and it's just like, it's one of those things that you have to, everyone comments on is like taking a walking through a project, not there to, manage a sub or your guys. I just walked the house. I was just like, I'm just going to walk it and look at it like I'm walking it for the first time. And we painted the whole thing, and I'm like, God, it looks like every single recess trim, like someone was a smoker. Like now that everything's painted, I'm like trying to just take a new perspective, and I was like, geez. So with not being scope creep, which is something we never talk about, is like, all right, I want to make more money. I'm going to say, hey, we should replace all the trims.
Right.
But I was like, the Halo makes the adjustable trim for recess that looks good. I went and bought one, and I threw it in. I said, hey, when you're at the house this weekend, take a look. If you think there's an issue with the trims, I replace one of them, and let me know what you think. And he's like, do them all. So it was like 120 recess trims, but it was like, that like, it's not scope creep, but everything grows a little bit because you're like, I don't want to leave it like this.
Right.
Someone's going to walk in and go, you painted this? Like, I can't tell because your eyes drawn to.
We looked at a job right before the break, and it was 3 bathrooms, 3 or 4 bathrooms, and over in Weston. And no, not Weston. Wellesley, near your Cliff job.
Knocking on my territory.
I know. I drove by. I saw the siders up there.
We should fight.
After
To the death.
Turf wars, man.
But it was the same thing. We're walking around. It's like, all right, I see the bathrooms, but what about the rest of the house? Like, and I hate using the word scope creep because that's not what the intent is. It's the same thing. It's like,
I think
you're
that's
going to
like
do
a client term.
Yeah, probably. But it's like it's like, okay, we're going to do the bathrooms. And the moment you step out of the bathroom, you're going to hate the room that's adjacent to it.
Yeah.
It's like, can we just like maybe have a cohesive plan? And I always say, if we're going to, let's at least put a plan together for the whole house, the entire house.
That seems aggressive. Like, Tyler, would you do that?
But we don't actually have to do it. But like, at least if you're going to renovate, the biggest problem I have is, we're renovating our Lincoln project. And if you don't design the whole house, if you design and we're renovating 50% of the house, and then you go to do the other 50%, if there was no consideration on what the other 50% was when you did the first 50, what happens if it doesn't communicate well or something was over? You could have done something to make the second phase, something that they do much later, better. I always try to look at it as like, let's just consider the whole house, what makes sense, especially when you're doing a large-scale remodel. And if you come to it later on or you do it now, it doesn't matter. But at least you're considering.
Yeah, that's definitely a new take. I like it. I feel like in my perspective, if someone's doing a kitchen or a bathroom only, that they're dipping their toe in the water of this whole process. Where this is all they can afford, and if they're reaching out to us, they're probably extending their budget to its max to try and pour it all into that space to make that space, like their master bathroom, a luxury spot that they're really going to enjoy.
Sure.
Instead of diluting that across the entire second floor.
No, but I'm not saying diluting it. I'm saying at least understanding what the impact of doing that bathroom or kitchen has on the rest of the house. So you're planning for it. 5, 10, 15, never. Whatever, however long after. But if you renovate it, like you renovate a kitchen and it's, I don't know. I'm always thinking of that as, especially when it's a larger remodel. And I think Reisinger posted something about taking on remodels, and he only wants to do full home because he's like, I hate doing
piecemeal.
Partial remodel, and then the HVAC system is crap. And someone walks in, it's like, you just spent all this money and the house doesn't perform, or it's uncomfortable, and that's to an extreme.
But it does exist. And when I used to do like green energy stuff, and it's like you'd have these people doing deep energy retrofits, and you do this crazy envelope that would perform, and then they do like an IKEA kitchen,
right?
And it's like, nope, this is just the formula that works there. Meaning, you're never going to replace the envelope in this style construction, but you'll always renovate and update the interior.
Right.
So that's just it's a great talk.
It all comes down to what people's budget, if it's like I think that it's a case by case. Any job that I look at, I always try and gauge what the people's long-term goal is, especially if there's adjoining spaces or there's a kitchen below it, are you at some point looking to remodel the kitchen? If so, like, I think that you should do this first. If there's back-to-back bathrooms where there's potential to change layout, it's like, well, let's at least get a floor plan for both right now, and we only have to finalize design on the other one right now, so you're not paying for the full design up front. I'd like to take consideration of it, but I don't think I'm ever in the position to go in for like 1 or 2 bathrooms and sell them a redesign on everything. And I don't know, I think that a lot of that is just budget, and then also where a lot of the homes we work in are older homes where it is all chopped up and it is piecemeal. So that's just like, that's the life cycle of the house. It's never taking an old house and completely, like, it happens in completely gutting everything, but most of the jobs that we work are 1 room at a time, 2 rooms at a time. And then I always just like to, whatever we're doing in that room, make sure that we set them up for when they go to do the next space, they can carry that through. It's like, let's make molding selections that fit your house.
Right.
And also we can carry through, or door selections, or all of everything, what, even as far as one of the jobs that we just did, it's like, well, what paint color eventually do you want to paint all your trim? Because I want to do your new room in that color, and eventually you'll repaint everything, but I don't want to do it the same, just kind of sorting those things
I think
out,
that's
so they're not doing things twice.
I think the key word there is like the consideration. That's what I'm getting at, is like there has to be some consideration to what the long-term goals are. That doesn't mean we actually have to put a design together, but at least, at the very minimum, let's consider it.
No, that's true. I mean, the more we're talking, I'm thinking about that master that we did, because the rest of the house was kind of, we updated all the paint and everything, so it was already at the caliber. It was a 1.6 house, 1.6 million, and honestly, the master probably could have worked for anybody. It was already there. But I mean, thinking about like the Kuchen trim, like we still didn't match up the Andy McQuaid trim that was in the rest of the house. We took a profile that's very similar to the Andy McQuaid, but matched it up to the Kuchen stuff that's just so much richer, and put that in the room, meaning it wasn't a total change. Like you'd appreciate it more when you're sitting in the tub, but not something you're going to walk in and go, oh my goodness. And then we have a Dover renovation coming up in February. No, March, February we do permitting on. But like that one I brought Amy in on because it was, I can sketch a lot of stuff, but I'm like, I don't have the time. So I'll kind of delegate that. And they were like, we just want a mud room, powder room, this entryway, and it will affect the dining room because you're changing the layout. And I said, guys, we're going to make the mud room totally kick ass, but you can literally see your kitchen from the mud room. So like if we're going to keep the kitchen, we need to match up the cabinetry in the mudroom, because otherwise they're not going to play well with each other. And we ended up doing the design for both, phasing the two if we wanted to. And now that we're kind of pushing it out because we have priorities with some other clients, is that we're now going to probably end up doing both. And then they watch an IG story and go, hey, I love the bookcase with the reclaimed wood inside of it. I need that in the house. So now it's we haven't done anything yet. Now it's rolling into the family room because it's like, we could redo that whole wall. So it does happen. And they want to do their bathroom upstairs. It totally needs it. It's just how we're going to stage it out, like when they go away.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm in enough old houses too that I don't necessarily mind when things aren't 100% cohesive, where it's like, all right, I see that at some point over the past 150 years, somebody made an attempt to match this up and it's not the exact same thing. And like, that's somewhat of the beauty of an old house. Like, yeah, it'd be nice to come in, even my house, completely gut everything and start fresh, but it's just not realistic with people living with budgets and everything else. But I think some of the charm of that is the updates that happened over the years. And that being said, there's jobs where we go into where it's like, okay, this has just been a mess since the original conception of this house. Like, it's just been added on. We need to strip back down and get back to where we were and start over.
Plus, it can be totally overwhelming for a client. Like, from what you just said, that, like, imagine gutting your whole house.
Yeah.
And turning your life upside down. Like, I'm thinking about it for my own house. Like, we're trying to do a large scale renovation, hopefully next year. And I turned to my wife at one point on the couch and I'm like, so you don't get a kitchen during the renovation?
Yeah.
prepared for that now. Like we haven't got drawings yet, but I'm like,
Yeah.
like that's the mindset. Like I wish that's the first meeting everyone had is like, this is gonna suck for a long time. Like get a lot of takeout menus. We used to give that to people doing renovations. We give them a whole bunch of takeout menus from like the local places where they knew they wouldn't have a kitchen. But it's
our job that we're starting this month is like a master bed remodel. We're gutting one bathroom, expanding it, and then adding another bathroom to the master bedroom, moving HVAC upstairs, and then down in the basement, we have to, like, it's over 100-year-old house, so all the plumbing is getting removed, and we're bringing up all new plumbing from the basement. So we're going to have to demo a portion of the first floor and then the basement. And they have 2 adults, 2 daughters who I think are maybe like 10 and 13 or something. And they have, right now, they've been living with one small bathroom with a 4-foot tub. And then they have a powder room down on the first floor in an addition. And, you know, it's going to be a 10-week, 12-week project to get, it's an old house, so like to get everything demoed and back up and running. And she's like, well, we don't really need any sort of temporary bathroom or anything. And I was like, yeah, you do. She's like, no, we can go to the gym, this. And I was like, I'm putting money on your job to set up a temporary shower in your basement. Like, what if it's $1,500? If you never used it, like the peace of mind of having that's going to make my life easier for this job. And that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
super smart.
It's just like, you not having a functioning shower with 4 almost adults living in a house for 3 months, like I won't sign up for a job because you're gonna hate me.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like, mate, you're looking out for your relationship. And I was just telling Ken about a project that we got the okay on, and we're going to demo they're moving in the next couple of weeks, and then we're going to demo the kitchen. The wife is pregnant. We're going to demo it, and then we're going to stop so we can then like assess what, like the whole, basically the whole, and figure out exactly what we can design everything so there's no, unknowns. They won't have a kitchen, and then come back and then after the baby and then build the kitchen and finish the space. And Ken's like, are you sure?
Yeah, are they sure?
That's what I'm saying in my head.
But they have like a
An au pair suite?
like a bit like a small butler's kitchen or something in the basement that I think they use for like the pool area out back.
God, last time I did a reno with a pregnant woman living in the house, it was like having to air seal things.
Yeah.
Like from their active living area.
Yeah.
Like what you do with the Sega tape, like
Right.
to the outside, you have to do that. Like
So the plan is to separate the entire side of that house, do the demo, and then basically just clean the thing, top to bottom, and then come back after the baby's sleeping through the night.
professionally clean it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we have to.
I'll tell you one thing. We did a job for a pregnant lady, which was like full kitchen renovation, putting like a massive flush beam in, opening up into their dining room, and the air sealing and the dust protection and the containment and working around that was nothing compared to the hormones that were in the air
Penetrating those
job.
barriers.
Oh my God. It'd just be like, fine. And then all of a sudden, just Jekyll and Hyde. And I was like, what? Like, I thought we were doing well. Weren't things going well? What the heck just happened? You were happy this morning? It's like, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one.
John, I want to talk about your notes here. Because I'm trying to read them. There's a lot of arrows. It says like expectation, workaholic. There's an arrow leading to something I can't read. 24/7 world.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like this has been growing as a topic because I think it started with you. You got 2 phones, a work phone and a personal phone.
Yeah.
And then it then grew more when Tyler created. What's your IG? Do you want to put it up there?
Personal.
Yeah. Your personal.
What is the handle?
Yeah.
Mr. Tyler Grace.
Yeah. So, and that was, I guess it didn't really dawn on me as much with your personal phone. I get that. Like I have a business line and a personal line on my phone that go to the one phone, but you do it so you can turn off completely. And then Tyler, you different reason, but you wanted to have a different. If someone looked back at you, it wasn't all work related.
Yeah.
You wanted to have some sort of personality beyond work.
I feel like my entire life over the past 3, 4, 5 years is like just, I don't mind the relationships based around work. You know, the friendship I have with you guys is around work, but anyone who meets me at this point, any interaction I have with people, it's based on TRG home concepts. And I just, not that I have more to offer the world than that, but like, that's not who I am. That consumes enough of my daily life. And that's by choice. I do enjoy work. I do enjoy what I do. It's a huge passion of mine, but I have to have something more than just work, just my customers.
And Nick, what's the deal with the phone?
Like you said, it's just a separation. Before I answer that, Tyler, I didn't realize that that's why you made that second account. And I've never actually thought of it that way. Because it's the same, and it's probably the same for all of us and many people in general, is that when people interact, it's about who we are as professionals, not as the person. And I think my professional career has shaped who I am personally in good and bad ways. And when I say bad, I mean more cautious. It's like I'm almost more. I think you actually alluded to that on your other Instagram, is that you're censored, like you're censoring yourself because you need to remain the professional. And if it's like any, I don't want to compare us to celebrities or anyone of power, but it's like in that realm, it's like when like a celebrity messes up, it's a big deal. It's like, I can't believe he went out and got drunk, or it's everything is so becomes so censored.
Every decision that you make on your professional Instagram, it's like, who's going to see this? What are my customers going to see? Who's going to read it?
Right.
What looks good in this picture? What doesn't look good? What mistake is somebody going to be a jerk about?
Right.
And like, that's, every post on my professional account is based around work. And like, yeah, I've always integrated my family into my account, but it's like who you follow, who follows you, who asks you to follow them. Every single move on your professional account, you're thinking about 10 things down the road. It's just
right.
like work. And I just want something where I can go on it. I think that my business account, that is me, that's business version of me, which may not be as professional as other people, but I want a personal account where it's just like, I don't care who I follow. I don't care if I don't follow you back. I don't care if I curse,
Sure.
I don't want to think about what I'm doing. I just want to do it. And I don't want to think about the repercussions or who's going to like it or who's not going to like it or how many likes it's going to get. I just want something where I can express myself, and be myself. And I think you don't realize what sort of hole you're in with all of that or how consuming it can be. And it's nice to have something else where I can go on and, look at or interact that's not my work account.
Right.
I don't have to open it up and be like, oh my God, I have 45 DMs that I didn't get to. It's just, I can be on my personal account all day long with it. If I have 5 minutes here, I'm stopped waiting for somebody where I'm not completely immersed and engaged in work.
And that's why, John, to go to your question, that's exactly why I got another phone. And it's funny, I think you had told me, I feel like I had the second phone before you told me that you had 2 lines on your phone, because I remember going back and saying, I want to get rid of this phone and just put 2 phone numbers on one phone. And he's like, yeah, no problem. But he was like, but yet, like, you were saying that you wanted to be able to shut your email off and not have that connected. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, if I have 2 lines on my phone, I'm not going to actively shut one off. I'm going to randomly turn it on just to see if someone texted me on it. Where it's like, I got the second phone and I actually have a personal Instagram, but I don't really actively use it. But I don't have my work Instagram on my personal phone. I don't have any email connected to it. I don't have, there's like literally 15 people that have the number. And it's because and it was out of the fact that I was shutting my work phone off and I would be with the kids at home and my wife would leave and need something, or I would leave with the kids and she would need something. And like you, Tyler, it's like I didn't want to be immersed in work when I was with the kids. And it's like getting it, like having my phone ring and be my wife, but also notice that a client texted me because a cabinet door is misaligned.
You know, and it's the reason why this comes up is because you both did this individually, and I sit back and watch it all because we always talk about the podcast being like this kind of space where we reflect and drive home and go, what? and I appreciate how you guys take different approaches that are totally different, but kind of in line. And I've been listening to a bunch of different podcasts, and one of them is about work life. And they brought up the point that there's people that are integrators, meaning that blend work and home. And then there's people that are segmenters, where there's clear boundaries.
Do they talk about how to figure out which one you are?
They didn't. There's usually clear boundaries that you set that you're comfortable with. And that's what you guys are doing. Like they gave examples, like there were people that will have different sets of keys. Like, again, not in our domain.
Sure.
Like if you go to work, if you have a set of keys that's just for work, they would have a separate set of keys to basically have this boundary.
Yeah.
And then there were other guys that, like, there was one guy that was a firefighter, and he wouldn't wear boots into the house or greet his kids until he had taken a shower to kind of have that, maybe the smoke or whatever it was, kind of be different. And, you know, other people that are at work won't have pictures of their family about in their cubicle because they want to have that kind of separation and not be reminded. So there's clear boundaries. And I look back at when I was taking all my notes, and I'm like, when I was younger as a carpenter, I feel like we talked about this earlier, is that with Christmas gifts and you getting boots, and it's like, dude, we wear boots all the time. When I was little and I had the Chippewas with the high heel, Tyler, so I could be the same height as you. And I would wear those things all the time. And when I was younger, I didn't realize I was doing it, but listening to this podcast and then thinking about it more, is I would wear flip-flops in my truck to the job site. So like work didn't start for me until I laced those things up on site. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, pack up all my tools. And I remember I would always couldn't wait to unlace them, put flip-flops on, because I was like, dude, I'm off. I'm off. I'm not in call. So it was like,
flip-flops is a weird choice, but okay.
Nah, dude, you got boots on, you got socks on. It's like everything's tied up, and I just wanted to be like, it's like
I just can't drive.
It's like going sleeves. What?
I don't know. I just
you can't drive.
I mean, I can. I'm not like flip-flops. It wouldn't be my footwear of choice to drive.
I don't think they could.
They didn't have Crocs back then.
Oh yeah, if you have the little ankle support.
I mean, I think, and it's funny, they go into a little bit more of like having those boundaries, but I think everyone needs boundaries.
Well, the reason I ask if they kind of help you figure out if you're a segmenter or a integrator, because oftentimes, and my wife will fight this, is that she wants me to be an integrator.
Really?
It's like, yeah, in the sense like just work from home. Just like, hey, I know the kids are up, but like, pop out your computer and get some work done.
But that speaks to our industry, because why I wanted to talk about this is because I think when they talk about it in podcasts and everyone else, is that it's really about people driving their personal car to work and then going into work. There's a clear boundary already set. Mm-hmm. For us, like when you don't have your truck lettered, and I didn't letter my truck, but I remember at my last company having it lettered, and we always wear our brand. You've gone to flannels, but it's like it's always on you. You wake up, put your t-shirt on, look in the mirror. It's like it's a Saturday. I'm still got my logo on. I love my company, but it's like when I lettered our trucks, like the gray one, I put gray lettering on it for John because I didn't want him to be reminded when he drives to get orange juice in the morning that it's like in this. How do I want to put this? Is like in this underlying thing. That,
it's like subliminally.
Yeah, the truck's going to remind him of what he needs to get done on Monday, even though it's Saturday. And I was like, how? I didn't put it on the door of the driver's side. I put it way in the back. And I mean, I know it's still lettered, but there's something because it irritated me when I was an employee.
Well, I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
And you went back and forth about lettering it.
Exactly, because I was like, is it
and
necessary?
Mine's only like ours are only not lettered because we haven't taken the time to do it, but the intent is to. And it's been.
But would it be discreet or would it be bold? I mean, the company. This is your personal, like your personal vehicle is the company vehicle, so it's already integrated. You get me?
No, I do. It wouldn't be. I've toyed with making mine subtle, like doing a gray on a white, but on the 2 PM trucks. Like it would be black lettering on the white truck. Yeah. It wouldn't be a wrap. It wouldn't be this overly obnoxious, anything. It would just be, kind of what's required: name, phone number, and handle or website or something. I don't even know if I'd do that. It would probably be name and phone number.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I didn't. This is the first time I ever did it where I was thinking of the employee as well.
Right.
And it's usually personally, it's how I did it, how I want to do my truck, and I just did that on his truck as well. But I mean, one of the things that did come up is that the segmenters, the people that find clear boundaries between work and home, are healthier. So that was one thing they did define, which I was like, interesting. And I feel like we're all in a subtle way trying to find better boundaries because, like you said, that 24/7 world, that with technology and the way it is, there is no escaping it.
Right.
Like,
I even hate the fact that like it will be the weekend. And I'll walk by my bag or my work phone will be on the counter charging, and I'll touch the screen to see if it's on. And it's like, oh, it's on. Oh, it's just one text. And I'll look at it. Yeah. And Meg will start walking down the stairs, and I'll just throw my phone down. Not because she cares, but because I keep telling myself, I'm like, I've told myself I'm going to separate this.
You can do this, yeah.
And why do I keep finding myself back to it? And I'm looking at right now,
But no, you're right. I mean, that's part of what there's my ramble.
That's why I
want
to know. Like, I'm curious about this podcast, and I want to listen to it because I think Tyler and myself and John. I think we're probably all segmenters.
But I feel like we're almost have to be integrated in our business. There's no clear line. Like I'm gonna have a home office. It's like it is really blended, and I think a lot of us.
Do you want a home office?
I do, because I find that if I could be home with my kids, okay, that's a great question. I feel like if I could be home, like if they're not home and I'm there and I'm getting stuff done and then they come home from school, I still want to be able to unplug for that minute, close the study doors, and then go hang, like play NHL 2020.
Yeah.
You get me? But I would love to be able to be there. But that's also, to get to your point, is that like, they talk about having these triggers. Like one of these guys, it's like Dan, I'm going to butcher his last name, but he's out of Philly actually. He owns a big company, and he created ZZ Mail, basically like Z-Mail. And there's no emails on the weekend and no emails after 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Like that's across the company. And there's companies like in France, they're instituting a 35-hour work week. Mm-hmm. Like this is a problem.
Right.
And as employers, if we want to get the most out of our employees, we have to be cognizant of this.
Right.
And it's not how we grew up, any of us. I think I grew up working, I remember in college, it was like, 40-hour work weeks, they don't exist.
Yeah.
And
it's memes. It's like 40-hour work week. Like, nice part-time job.
Yeah, but everyone would brag and be like, yeah, I did like 60 hours and 80 hours this week. And it's like, that was just the nature of what we got into. Mm-hmm. And now when we're in the business for 15, 20 years, that is 15, 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And now the people coming out of school or wherever it is, they don't have that mentality.
Right.
So how do we kind of incorporate that in what we do? But going back to your point was that like, my kids have forced me, I put notes because I ramble. My kids forced me to have boundaries because like when I coach, I don't look at my phone at all because I've done it before. I'll be on the bench in the middle of coaching these kids. My phone will ring and it'll be a client that I know is going to always have a question. And now I am splitting my time mentally with the kids, not even my kids, but just kids. And this thing that's in my brain that like, I have to get back to that, or a text. So I love the fact you have two phones. We can shut that off.
Right.
But then there's also this thing where I also don't like things building up. Like we talked about this before. Like
I know, but like what? I've never. I just don't believe that something can build up that important. Or you know what? Maybe it does. Then get a call service that has your personal line, and if it's an actual emergency, they call you.
No, and I'm with you. I
have that barrier.
I feel like I have those examples where I've had a client where we built their old house, and he texted me and he's like, "Hey, I got a problem," or he calls me. And I was like, all right, what is it? And like he hangs up, and he tried to change the water filter out in his sink, and he never shut the water off. So once he pulled the filter out, it started just pouring water into the kitchen, onto the floor, into the basement. I made it to his house before the fire department did. And it's like, I know.
Right, and you're a great guy for that, but at the same time, it's like, if you didn't, it just would have been.
What if it was like your son's birthday party, and then you're choosing between?
Yeah, would you have left?
Whatever this is.
No, I wouldn't have left, but I probably would have reached out to one of my guys to see if they're available.
I think the issue that I have kind of come to realization, it's never, my wife doesn't give me a hard time about it. It's probably me being harder on myself than anything, is that I've realized that I will drop anything to cater to my customers. If they have a question, it could be 10:30 on a Sunday night, and I'll go step out from what I'm doing, sit down, figure out an answer to their question and get back to them, or, not go to something that's family related, or change my schedule, or change a trip for customers for work to make them happy. And I'm realizing that I'm not doing that for myself, and I'm not doing that for my daughters, and I'm not doing that for my wife. I wouldn't hesitate to not go to an event for my daughters because a customer asked me to do something, but it should be the other way around. And I'm realizing that there's certain customers that appreciate what I do, and there's certain customers that I will, no matter what, drop what I'm doing and bend over backwards for. But I know that those customers treat me the same way. It's reciprocal. They don't give me a hard time. They don't take. But I realize that those customers are few and far between. If it's 1 out of every 10, I feel like that'd be good. Yeah, I have good customers, but I don't have, not all of my customers are great customers. And I'm getting to the point where I'm killing myself, and I'm emotionally upsetting myself and engaging with these customers to make them happy, and not making myself happy or not making my family happy. When the tables turn, they wouldn't do it for me. I'm realizing these customers are just take. They don't care. They will take. And then as soon as it's the other way, it's a completely different side of them. They're your friend. And then it's like, hey, we ran into something that's an extra $500 that I already chewed my price down and beat myself up for 2 days doing, just to not raise the price some so that they're happy. And then they're still ungrateful about it, or they're still complaining that it was more money. And it's like, why am I killing myself for these people that don't truly appreciate what I'm doing, or appreciate the amount of effort, or that I'm not with my family while I'm doing this? So I think for me, I need something where it's like, I'm not giving my everything to this business. Like when I'm on the job and my good customers, and it's not like I'm going to treat people differently, but I don't want an issue on a job at 5:30 p.m. for me to ruin the rest of my night over it. Right.
And that's the clear separation. But John, going back to that customer, if you had a personal phone and he couldn't get in touch with you, what was your fear?
I don't think it's a fear, and I don't think I have a good explanation for this.
Do you think what would have been the negatives that came out of that?
No, I guess I want to be a resource for my clients.
Sure.
And that's, I think, the bottom line. And if you're right, if my phone was off, let's say it was dead, and I didn't have a choice and it didn't happen, I wouldn't regret that my phone was dead.
Right.
It wouldn't have happened.
Do you think that you have a better relationship with him because you went there?
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't think. I think they turn to me because we built something for 12 months or whatever.
Yeah.
That they know that I'll always be reliable.
No, that I do understand, and I don't. What I guess I'm getting at is, do you think that that their perception of you would have been?
I don't think it changed it.
if you didn't answer the phone.
Either way, no.
Right. That's where I'm going with this. It's like, you brought up the point that, okay, what happens if there is an emergency? And I constantly think about it, and I talk to my team about it. I'm like, maybe we set up a call service. And that way, just like a drain company.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
hey, my sewer is blowing up into my basement.
And there's some stuff
I can't get in touch with Joe, so I got to call this call service. And if they deem that an emergency, they'll call Joe.
But there's also things that, trust me, I know I'm flawed. 100%.
I'm not
because
saying that.
There's things you can get phone calls on that we physically can't fix.
Right, but I think like that's why it took so long for me to make that clear cut, is because I too wanted to be the resource. I too wanted to be the one that no matter what, you would text me, boom, I got your answer right here. Mm-hmm. And just kept doing it. And I realized what that was doing to my family, especially when I had kids. Mm-hmm. And that is not, it became very real in my life when I had kids, and when my daughter would have to say that, dada multiple times because I was doing something, that's where I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, this is phones off. It's, and I know that's the case, and I could have corrected just that and just been like, all right, no, when the kids are around, but I was like, this trickles in more than just the kids, more than just my wife. It is becoming a part of my life, and this is who I am. I'm always reachable. Like, I see more value in not being reachable like that, because, it's like, I don't know. It's like if if you're always there for the answer, like if you can always get that answer, it's just not valuable. If all the answers are here, it's like, I'm having a hard time
with you.
No, I know I'm having a hard time explaining it, but it's just, I find more value in the separation, even on the client side, is that they, it's like one of your assistant project managers. It's like, if they're going to reach out to you and you're just going to give them the answer all the time, like, that's not valuable for them.
Agreed, but I mean, we're not. It's tough. Here's the thing. I think it's a thing I need to work on, because again, I've always been of the mentality. I definitely know I'm an integrator, but I also think that even in my years of playing sports when I was younger, I'm not even gonna say hockey. I did. Is that like I didn't bring talent to the table, so I used to always just bust my ass, because that's what my mom always told me, was just hard work you can't learn, so just pour that into it.
Right.
And I think I'm still doing that today. Whatever, I'm 40, but it's like that's all it's ever brought me success, is that if I pour more time into it.
Right.
So you're trying to tell me to stop doing something I've been doing my entire life.
I'm not trying to tell you that.
No,
yeah.
No, I'm trying to tell it to myself, is to find that happy boundary.
Well,
and for me to have my phone on, and if I get that call and I'm next to my phone and I do it, I'm not a slave to my phone. Okay, like the question I had for you later on was, why not just turn your phone, like just not have to look at it if it's a client thing, and not let it trigger you, and have that separation where you can just kind of, all right, I'll get to that Monday. Like emails, I don't look at my emails at all. I'll look through it to see if like we go through an email, but I'm not going to just shut off my Vintage Builders and look at the Modern Craftsman. I feel like I can just go, you know what, I'll look at that later. And have that comfortable.
I mean, that's a self-control thing.
I know. Going back to what I was saying is that, like, my last couple companies I worked for, I just poured hours into it. Like, didn't keep track, not to brag, didn't keep track because I didn't want to know of how many hours I was putting into it.
Well, that's the balance too, because it's like, for me, this past year, I've spent a lot of, I've made a tremendous effort of, when I'm home, no more work. The kids are down for bed, no more work. And the negative to that is that all the years prior of me working extra hours, working nights, working extra weekends, working till midnight, or like, that was helping me develop what my, I'm going to say end goal, but what my continued goal was for my company. And like you say, it's like, if you're going to put more time and effort into it, that leads to success. If I'm limiting my time and effort to it, that limits the speed at that success can come, right? So now I'm back. Now here's where I'm trying to figure out my balance again. It's like, now the kids go to bed. I'm like, all right, I'm going to set a cutoff of 10 p.m. That gives me a half hour when I'll typically go to bed around 10:30. Gives me a half hour to like shut off. The hardest times I have to go to bed are when I leave here, because it's usually midnight and I get home and my mind is racing and I can't sleep. Where it's like, but if I'm going to, my point is now I'm trying to integrate. Now I'm trying to integrate after my kids go to bed, because my wife is watching TV. I'm not interested in the show. Great. I can work on the creative side of our business and put together the stuff that I've been trying to, while I'm dealing with, my team.
Do you feel at all that you are lazy now that you don't work the extra hours? Yeah. Same.
That's why I'm doing now. That's why I'm like, all right, 8:00, like, get that computer. Let's do it. Like, I'm not going to have time. I'm not going to have time to do this blog that my web guy wants me to do. Now I can. Mm-hmm. It's like now, like that's, I battle with that a lot. It's like, I still want to work more. I just know that I shouldn't be.
Exactly.
And
it's funny because like so the scale of your two businesses and the way that you're structured completely different than mine. Like mine is built around me working, and I don't mind, even like after work today where I'm out and I'm trying to do things in my truck and move things around and the girls come out, and like that's just life, and I don't mind that, and I like them seeing, because it's for me, it's for business, it's to make money. Like I understand that part. My phone's not ringing 100 times a day because I have 6 projects going on and 8 different customers, so I don't necessarily deal with that aspect of it. So the separation for me is more of a mental separation, and it's not even a self-control thing, because I could tell myself I'm not going to open a text message or an email and stand by that. It's the fact that like I, for whatever reason, like emotionally attached to my jobs, to my customers, and I want to please them. Mm-hmm. I want to make them happy. I want to be the best contractor that they've had. And I'm burning myself out because I'm realizing that they don't feel that same way for me. They feel as though they're just paying me money, so it's expected. Mm-hmm. So all these things that I'm doing throughout the course of a job where it's like, hey, you know what? I've been in and out of your house for 6 weeks and your back door drags on the kitchen floor. So I'm going to cut the door up and put a new threshold in it for you. No questions asked, just do it and pay somebody to do it. And like to not get a thank you for that, or like not really acknowledge that other than in passing, or we did this extra, I didn't expect this, and I just said nothing about it, and we still got to where we wanted to be without charging you. And then we run into one issue which I just kind of can't bend on, and it's going to be this much more money, and you're annoyed about it. That's what really is bothering me the most, because I feel like my job is to take care of these people, and I want to protect them throughout the course of the job, and I want to come in on budget, and I don't want to be slamming them with extras, and I want to treat them kindly and keep their families safe and clean and healthy and give them 110%. But then as soon as anything doesn't go the way that they expect, it's like the switch flips and they can be downright rude. They can say stuff that's just like, at the day after Christmas, like, can we get a start date? Where it's like, I just feel like you could word that completely differently. And why are you treating me like I'm a dirtbag? Like, I've held your hand throughout this whole process. I've been fair. I literally just said, hey, you know what? You don't want to spring to color match all the cabinets. I'll pay the upcharge to get them color matched so that they match the trim. No questions asked. And you're still going to text me in a rude manner because it's the day after Christmas and you're stressed about something and you want to know when you have to have your space packed up. And it's getting to the point where it's like, I don't treat my family as well as I treat my customers. And there's a lot of customers who treat you like crap because of whatever reason. And my family doesn't treat me that way. And I'm like, why is it upsetting me so much that customers treat me this way? While they may mean nothing by it, that's just their way of dealing with stress, or they have stress in their life. And I feel like customers oftentimes take it out on you and the contractor because it's very easy to do that. And I don't want that anymore. And I don't think that that's going to change. I think that I need to change. And the easiest thing for me is just not to focus on that as much. So like I'm trying to shift my pattern of thinking so that my focus and, you know, my happiness and my contentment comes from myself and from my family and the people that no matter what happens will stand behind me and not be disrespectful to me, rather than my customers. And you know, we obviously need the work and we need the jobs and we need the customers, but there's going to be more customers who aren't amazing people than there are amazing people. So like I'll continue to treat the people who treat me fairly and kindly that way and be reciprocal with that. But the other people, I'm just going to have to keep it professional. And like, I'm not going to depend on their happiness to create happiness for me, because I've done that for 10 years and I'll be so happy with the things, the way that a job went. And it could be a $50,000 bathroom and they're upset that it was like an extra $250 that we ran into on something. And I'm like, I just knocked this out of the park and that's your hang up. And so it's like the jobs, you know, that's a loss for me because now they're not happy. And what did I do wrong? Should I not have charged them for it? But I did all this extra work for free and didn't charge them. And I need to get away from that because I shouldn't depend on that to make me happy.
But it's also like a relationship. Like you look at that and go, I should have broken up earlier. Like,
exactly.
You know, it's this weird thing that like when you ever had a girlfriend and then you know, high school, whatever, and then you break up and you're like, you thought that was love. Then you meet the new girl and you're like, what was that I thought I was just in? And it's just, but then you're passionate about what you do and it pours into your relationship with the client and it's not just work. I don't know where that line is. Like, I don't know if I'm an integrator or a segmenter or what, or if it's just like, if the client's going to suck there, the client's going to suck, but I'll then turn my direction towards like, but I'm going to kill the design. Like I'll still have like this thing I can go to where it's like,
yeah, you still have, weird. I mean, finding the positive side of it.
But like the enjoyment.
It's a bummer when like,
it sucks.
No, even for a job that we're starting where like the customer just isn't super nice. And it's like gotten to the point where I wish I could walk from the job, but I can't, it's too far along. And I'm like, well, maybe, you know, I'll try and do this for them. Or I'll just be like, hey, I'm going to do that for free, or this will be included. And I'm like, this is going to make them happy, you know? So I'm taking a hit. I'm trying to make them happy. And then 2 days later, it's like another rude text message. And it's like emotionally, I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Am I not approaching this the right way? And it upsets me that somebody's treating me that way. And I want to turn around and be like, screw you, but you can't. And I don't want to be that attached to these customers. I don't want them to be responsible for me being upset or happy.
Well, Tyler, I think you like the point about what drives me crazy is that those type of clients tend to get the most like a better service from us.
Yeah.
Because we're, like you said, it's like, all right, you know what? I'm just not going to charge them for this because they're upset and this will make them happy. And it's like, why am I... This guy over here is super happy with me, and he's paying every dollar.
Exactly.
And I think that, like you said, that you got to get away from that. And I think
they appreciate it.
And they appreciate it. Yeah. But it's I think it's very similar to like working with friends. And Mike Telich said it on his podcast, is that you either need to be able to afford to do it for 100% free, or you charge every single dollar that you should be charging. When you do something and make a compromise, you immediately go into this, someone is getting taken advantage of.
Yeah. It's like lending someone money. Someone told me early on, you have to be okay with never getting that money back.
Right.
And it's, I think, Tal, you brought up a point that I hadn't written down, is that I remember a couple of years ago when I was in a really bad spot with everything, I was told at one point not to take things so personal. And I'm like, dude, I'm only successful in my own world, not compared to anybody else, because I take things personal.
Yeah, right.
Like
how do you not?
Yeah, how do I go through this world and not, like, I get it. A TPS report in your cubicle, you can just do whatever. I mean, I've never been there, but I'm assuming it just.
How's a TPS report?
From Office Space. How do you not know that? Really?
I've seen Office Space. I just don't know what a TPS.
You don't remember that?
No,
it's a huge thing.
I have a red stapler. I know that.
But
I'm
no,
gonna look it up.
How do you take things where it's like, all right, I can just let it roll off my back? No, you take that home with you, and that might stew for another, I don't know, week. And then next time you go in there with a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do, even with subs. Like, we deal with a lot of individuals to make stuff reality, and it's tough.
I'm interrupting. A TPS report is testing procedure specification, and the first photo that comes up is Office Space.
Yeah, dude, it's where it's from, bro.
All right.
But no, I don't know. I don't know. Whenever they told me that, I just threw my hands up, and I was like, what do you mean?
That's a huge problem that I have, because what we do, it's not just, if it were just carpentry or it were just managing the work, that would be one thing. But we're dealing with people and we're dealing with relationships. And when I do a job, I'm working from pre-construction through conception through completion on this job. And like, I'm treating these people as kindly as I can, protecting them as much as I can. And like, I don't know, with them, I'm not going to be rude to them. Like, it's just like when you go out to eat.
Hold on.
I'm taking a leak.
You taking a leak? All right. Hold on. You cut out.
So if I go like to get tattooed, or you go to a restaurant, I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to be short with that person. I'm going to be appreciative. I'm going to say thank you. I'm not going to haggle them on price. If they do extra stuff, I'm going to be very gracious. I just don't get how people don't understand how to act when it's like they're paying for it, so they expect it. Where like, it shouldn't be expected. If you go out to eat, you're paying for it, but you shouldn't expect anything. Just be appreciative for what you get. And like, if you're unhappy, there's a way to approach that. I just have a really difficult time separating the personal from the professional. Everything that I do, my heart goes into. And like, these relationships with customers, I feel like I'm building from day one. And when it doesn't go the way that they seem, they can become rude and ungrateful. And for me, that it really bothers me a lot, because it's like, I wouldn't treat someone that way.
Right.
And I think that's the hardest part for me, like, to just say, hey, I know there's people who can do it professionally where somebody's unhappy and they're just like, oh, well, I'm paid, so I'll walk away from this. But for me, it kind of, it lingers.
And I think that's a different side of this, segmenter versus integrator, where it's, the conscious decision to have a separate account or a separate phone. But now we're talking about emotions. Yeah. And it's like, at this point, you're not a segmenter when it comes to emotions. You're trying to integrate them. And that is, that's where it's like, that's where it becomes very difficult.
And that's the whole point of my second account, is because I do not have the capacity or the ability to separate myself emotionally from my job, emotionally from my customers. Like, if my customer's upset, I'm upset. If something's not going right on the job, I'm upset. And I need to work on creating those boundaries within. And one step for me is just like, if I open up Instagram, that it's not on my work account.
Right.
Yeah.
That like, it's not right in my face. And I could just not run a business account, or take Instagram off my phone, or not go on Instagram. But like, it is part of the way that we market ourselves, and it is part of my life. And there's people on there who ask me questions and everything else, and I'd like to give back. But I also just, with that knee-jerk reaction to pick up your phone when you have free time, if it opens to my personal account, like, I'm not necessarily thinking or dwelling on work. My first reaction isn't to write a post about what's going on the job. So that's just a little bit of separation for me. It's a way for me to not give all of my energy towards my customers. And that's not going to say that quality is going to take a hit or our customer service is going to take a hit, but it's going to be me not worrying and being so anxious about my customers being happy. It's still going to be the same result on your job, I'm just going to try and remove myself from that a little bit.
I think you alluded to it earlier, is that the self-control, like if you say, I'm not going to check emails, I'm not going to check emails, but are you checking emails?
If it were a separation of, hey, just don't need to check emails, that's fine. I could easily do that. It's the issue that I have is a little bit deeper than that. So it would be, if I get a text from it, like it'd be easy to say I'm not going to answer a text from a customer, but it could be something that was 3 days ago where I'm sitting down and something reminds me of the way that they treated me.
So basically, Nick, you asked if it were self-control as far as like not opening an email. I have the mental and like self-control capacity to do that. If somebody says don't check your phone from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m., I can do that. My brain doesn't necessarily. The issue I have is if something happens, I have almost an inability to let it go until I resolve it or fix it. So it could be something from prior in the week that maybe just comes to mind, or if I'm on my business Instagram where I pull it up and it reminds me of a customer, or a job, or I'm looking through pictures to post on my professional Instagram. It's like, oh, I ran into this, and then that's how they reacted when I told them that I did this, or I put all this extra effort into this and they didn't give two craps about it.
Right.
So I think that's so much. I think that the fact that I don't separate my emotions from my work, it ties everything together. So like the more involved, like work is everything with us. It's how we think, it's how we look, it's how we act. It drives our decisions. It drives how we treat our family. It drives how much money we can spend. And I think that what you guys have an issue with in separating your client and your work from your family is different than what I struggle with, because I don't have that many customers that it's just my phone ringing all the time or reminding me for myself. It's almost the way that I live my life and the daily operations that I go through and the way that my brain operates, that I can't separate my work from my personal life or my emotional life, just because it's tied together. I'm putting, not that people aren't putting what I am into a job, but it's just like, it's me there. It's me struggling. It's my excuses. It's my lack of excuses. It's every single buck is stopping with me. And a lot of my happiness in life comes from me doing what I do or what I enjoy what I'm doing. And I think that I need to kind of find other things that make me happy other than succeeding on the job and building things the way that I like, and making customers happy.
Right. I think that good. No, I mean that it's so hard. And I know I'm going to drive home thinking about this, because I'm on the same page. It's like, what makes me happy is building and making clients happy. Yeah. And finding the path to continue to strive to build what we really want to build. I was saying to John before the podcast, is like, I sent it to both of you guys. Like right now, I'm obsessed with this Australian architecture, and it's just that my entire life, like, this is the stuff I've wanted to build, and I'm watching it every day because I follow these architects down there. I'm like, this is what I want to build. This is what I want to bring to Massachusetts. And there's everything working against me to do that. The market, the clientele, the capital, the real estate agents, the investors that wouldn't be, it's too risky. All of these things working against me. And I'm continuing to try to navigate, like, all right, well, that's great, but like, I still want to get there. Yeah. But that, like, to what I'm getting at is like, that's my mind. Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily like that's engulfing my mind, besides the fact that I can separate my work, my current work from, my life right now. But it's still very much like that's still in my mind, and that is what I struggle with. Is like, a couple episodes ago, you asked what I do for, like, very related to stress. It's like, you said, do you go to the gym? Like, do you like going to the gym? Is that what you like John goes to hockey? Yeah, your release. That's what it was. And I still think of that question all the time.
But when you were talking, I was just sitting there thinking that we all love what we do. That to a lot of people, what we do is a hobby for them. That is their release from work, is to do what we actually do for a living.
Right.
The problem is we do it for a living every day, and how do you get so you're not burnt out? There's nothing wrong with you shutting your phone off and trying to figure out how you're going to do that passion build as your hobby. Like on the way here, I was listening to a different podcast, and the woman from Spanx, she created Spanx, and her podcast was like,
love them.
Yeah, but she was like, I thought it was really cool. What she said was that every person has $1 million or $1 billion idea. It just gets squashed as an idea. Mm-hmm. So like, instead of you telling us that, I'm actually going to blend two podcasts together. Sure. The other person was like, hey, whenever I have a problem with like a writer's block or whatever, I don't try and just stop and reset. I take a different perspective. We always talk about 1,000-foot view. And they go, if I knew a person, let's say I just say, hey, Tyler has this issue with writing this part. And I'm very similar this way, I can solve your problem. Like if John, my guy, comes to me, or you come to me, like we talked about in your office all the time, is like, what about this? And I'm like, I can come up with that off the cuff. But if I'm in the middle of it, I had this weird.
It's your problem.
Yeah, I'm like, what do I overthink it? But he's like, change your perspective. So like to blend the two together, instead of like, she's like, if I come to my family members and said, hey, I had this idea about cutting the feet off of pantyhose, everyone would have been like, you know what? If it was a good idea, someone already came out with it, and it squashes that idea. Instead, she goes, I'm not going to tell anybody about it for a year. I'm just going to do everything, pull it all together, and then go, hey, sit down. I got this thing to show you. And she showed them Spanx. And then like 6 months later, Oprah called her and was like, love these things. #1 product. So it's like, instead of coming up with that idea and naming off all the things that are going to be a detriment to that starting up.
Yeah.
Dude, we've all started businesses against competition where it's already existed.
Right.
With branding and whatever, and made it successful. Why don't it just come at it with a different angle? Like, let's say if I came to you and said, hey, I want to do this, how would you help me? Like, that's how you do that.
Right.
I think you can absolutely, we talked about this before, it's how do you do it?
Yeah, and I actually don't, like,
on the weekend, in your spare time, when you're not on your phone. Like,
right.
You just created time for that, and that can be your release.
True. I never thought of it that way, being different, like, considering it is very different than what I do now. But I think, like, everything working against me only makes me want to do it more. Where I think, a lot of times, like you said, it gets squashed because it's like, oh, if that many people are against me, like, then it doesn't make sense. Like, I literally was talking to a real estate agent earlier about that, and it was the same thing, very similar to what you were saying. And it's like, yeah, there's two markets, and that fits in between those two markets, and the in between market is where you lose. And I'm like, okay, so let's make it fit into one of the two markets. And it's, it sounds easier obviously than it is, right? Like I think what he was saying is like the two markets are like, ultra like insane money and a great house at an affordable price.
Well, the hardest part of what you want to do is that if you want to try and do it as a spec, the people that want that product.
Yeah, it goes from like 1 million to 10.
No, but those people that want that product don't also want a spec.
Right.
They want something that's been thought out from the ground to the roof. That I think what we've learned from, like, I'm going to take it way back to Orange County Choppers and all these other people, is that they started making bikes for the general public or consumers. Then people started coming to them for them to make bikes.
Yeah.
You want to do something that's very, very elaborate and very, very custom, and you want to get into a market. You have your hand on the pulse of so many people that you can find the market before you even create the product.
Right.
Eliminate the risk. Do that and do it with branding and marketing.
Yeah.
And people will step up and go, I want a piece of that. And then you've got your dream.
Yeah.
Realtors don't care unless they're selling something. And
Of course. And
they're going to.
And to my point, it's like, that doesn't change my mind on it. It's like,
I just don't think it's the right influence to even have in the system.
Right. I mean, the only reason I guess the only reason I had the conversation is like, well, I'm going to need that on my side to sell it. But maybe I don't.
Dude, what world are you in? You can go to Zillow and post it yourself.
You're right.
Come on. It's foolish.
No, it's.
But the whole point of this talk was that that could be.
Yeah, because that's a whole other topic. Like I do want to go down that road,
but that's a hobby that you could then. There's no reason why you can't work on that in the weekend and sketch stuff up.
I wish I was half as good at sketching as you are.
No, but I'm just saying.
And I meant that as a compliment, and at the same time, like.
Or brainstorm how you're going to market that.
I mean that, and it's funny because I said that I had my personal Instagram on my personal account. That's the only thing that's connected to it, and that's all it is. It's that and C10s.
Yeah.
And I look at trucks and houses like that. I want like just that architecture, and it's like, and I'm constantly screenshotting that stuff and be like, all right, that's what I want. That's what I want to
just
do.
get a notebook.
Yeah,
bro.
I think so much of the work-life balance and even what we're struggling with and what I'm struggling with is actually what makes you happy and where you're finding happiness, and whether that's a hobby or work. I think that a lot of what we do, it kind of crosses those lines, and it's a little bit muted and it's not distinct. What makes you happy, Nick? What makes you happy, John, and myself, is a lot of what we do. So your heart's in it, your emotions are in it, and it sets you up for happiness and it sets you up for disappointments. There's a lot of highs and lows there, and kind of separating those things is very difficult because it's not as black and gray as it may seem. And even Nick, like for you to be able to separate yourself from work entirely and shut your phone off, there's still a lot of things with work that make you happy and that are interests to you that are going to kind of bring up those feelings that you have or get you start thinking about work or a project or a detail. So, even shutting the phone off, it helps kind of assuage that problem a certain amount, but not entirely. And it's the same thing with me. I run into issues where like making people happy or giving them a job that I'm proud of or they're happy in their house, that brings me joy, but that also brings me disappointment. So it's hard to kind of keep them both. I think that I need to do a better job of separating them and finding things in my life that bring me happiness aside from work and trying to make my customers happy. Because if I found as much happiness in like going and buying my daughters a toy or taking the dog for a walk or giving my wife a compliment, I'd probably as a whole be a lot happier and have less disappointments in my life than if I were so concerned with the customer experience or how their job held up or how clean I left their job on the weekend. That right now, that's where I'm finding a lot of my joy in life, is making my customers happy, where there's just some people who you're not going to make happy and I'm banging my head against the wall. Like, I think that my efforts, or at least my mental, I like to call it mental masturbation, where you're just like sitting there going over the same thing over and over again. I think that a lot of my energy could be put elsewhere and the result would be the same thing. The job's still going to get done to my standard. The customer's still going to feel the same way, but I'm not sitting at home obsessing about what if or how it could be different. I'm just letting things play out.
Right.
I don't have an answer how to get there right now.
But I think, what you and John just said, it's like, I'm sitting here thinking that I'm not separating what I'm doing work life, but the fact that I think Tyler, what you said is like finding the happiness out of it, where it's like I find happiness in the sense of like, working towards what ultimately we want to build, to understand how, certain, like that side of it, like just looking at that architecture. That's not necessarily
you want to share
work.
that with your personal life. Like you want to share that with your wife because that's something
Right.
that makes
It's cool.
you
It's happy.
with your kids. And like, if you have to create that clear distinction in order to free yourself up, you're also robbing yourself of some happiness.
Right. Where it's the emotional side of the client relation, or, I mean, it doesn't matter. I was going to say, John, in your case, it might be different where in a spec bill, but you still have a client. There's still someone there paying for it. And that's, that becomes the burden in the relationship.
I mean, yeah, like to put it clearly, if I had a job, say it was a kitchen, and I focused more of my efforts on, or the happiness that I'm looking to kind of create were just based on my performance and not how my customer feels, that every job would be so much more of a success for me, because I'd just be more focused on doing the job that I was hired for and less worried about my customer not being happy about this, or the price being here, or this changing. And I think, again, at the end of the day, that job still is going to be completed in the same manner. It's just that I think I would be healthier if I focused more on my happiness being something that I can control, rather putting my happiness in somebody else's hands.
I agree. Tyler, I had a question for you on, does this whole thing that we're talking about, is this what prevents you from wanting to grow? Like right now, it can be a lot, and then having employees, and it adds a whole new dynamic, and then having more subs to deal with. Is that part of this?
Yeah, I think it's a big part of why I have difficulty. Like I'm always feel like I'm responsible for stuff outside of my control, and I still, even, it's very easy to just be like, well, who cares what they think? You're getting paid. The job's as good as it can be on your end. But I'm always worried about crap that's outside of my control. So if I can kind of limit what I'm controlling, I feel like sets me up to be happier, to worry less, to have less anxiety. I feel like the bigger that I grow, the more scale that I take on, I can only manage so much of the disappointments right now on the level that I am. And like, maybe there's greater joys that come with it, but I feel like the way that my personality is, I focus so much more on what I need to fix, or what I need to correct, or what's not going well, which again is something that I should work on a personal level. That it's very hard for me to imagine scaling that and dealing with 10 times more anxiety. So I'm sure like that's always been a huge part of the decisions that I make, and trying to find that little area where I feel like I'm content with life, and I'm making people happy, and I'm making myself happy, and I'm being the person who I should be. And like, as silly as it sounds, giving back to people, or doing what we're doing here, or being able to get on a phone call with you guys, or answer questions with you guys, or vent to you guys, or that's all very important to me. And I feel like if I don't kind of manage my life the way that I need to, and my business that I need to, the rest of that will consume me, and I won't have time for anything else.
I feel like the biggest benefit from having the clear separation too is that the dedication when you're on, like when work's on, the dedication to that time frame is higher.
Yeah.
Because
say that again.
Meaning like if I say, hey, when I'm home, there's no work, and when I'm at work, it's all work. That if I was trying to integrate them, my efficiency would be down. I'd be doing less per hour. Well, let's say it
Yeah, I
that
mean,
way.
you're looking to say, hey,
I'd
you
be
have 8 hours that you can be at work.
Right. I have to be as efficient as I can in 8
Yeah.
hours rather than spreading this over 20 hours or 24 hours, whatever. So I think the
Totally get
separation is that, like, hey, personal phone's on, I'm off. I'm at work. All right, head down, phone's flipped over. I got this crap to do, and I'm going to get it done. Like,
So, but if your wife calls,
well, if my wife calls, and yeah.
or a friend calls.
If a friend calls, I'm not answering. I don't have a lot of friends.
No, I guess I'm
But
trying.
if my wife called, I mean, I would pick it up.
Well, there's a study out that says that, in today's workload, there's a lot of stuff that you have to that you're playing interference with.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go out to the shop, you're talking to Ken, everybody else, that by the time you get through that gauntlet of people, you probably haven't even delivered the point you went out there for.
Yeah.
So then you have to then stay later when everyone's shutting down to go over the point that you need to address, because that took 45 minutes away of dealing with people.
Right.
And that there's so many people that are involved now that you have to then work later to get that stuff accomplished. I just think it's tougher where, Tyler, to your point, I feel like for year one, we didn't have, it was just Ben and myself. Year two, we brought on 2 more guys, bookkeeper, a lot more hours, which relieved me of doing a lot more things where I can, like we've talked about this before, if I go to hockey, I get to sleep in the next day till 9. I don't need to be up at 6. I value my sleep hugely. And if I want to come home at lunch and have lunch with the wife, I don't do that. But if I wanted to, if she wanted to make me whatever, I would do that. And I think that's healthy for me. And I think I'm still devoting a ton of time. I also can't find that balance where if I bounce out for hockey at 3:00 on a Tuesday, that I feel like I have to make up that time. When in reality, I don't.
Right.
No one's holding me accountable for that. I feel like there's going to be stuff to get done. It's the same as social media. That if we've talked about this before years ago, is that if I wanted to post 3 times a day, I could have gotten another invoice out. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how do you play this game of how are you really focused? And maybe there's days where I'm not going to focus. There's some days where I wake up and I'm like, dude, this is going to be an uphill battle all day. Right. I need to get through it. I'm just going to send a few emails out, a few texts, and then, go get a massage.
But
without
right now,
having employees, I couldn't do that.
So much of what you're finding self-worth in is the ability for you to get done as much as you can. Like, I feel like you gauge so much of your success and who you are as a person about how hard you can work and how much you can get done with the time that you have. Even, you mentioning where if you're taking a ride in the car, like you can hop on a phone call, you can always do more. And I think that a lot of what drives you is that it's getting up every day and packing as much as you can into that 24 hours and seeing what you accomplished. And like, that's what can bring you joy, or the fact that you feel fulfilled in a day because you did that, rather than take a day off or 2 days off, because then you feel like, well, I didn't do anything, I'm lazy, I didn't get enough done, I need to double time it tomorrow. Where if you were able to kind of shift focus of that thinking, and rather than saying I can get 12 hours of stuff jammed into an 8-hour day, and you were fine and content with getting 8 hours into an 8-hour day and then 4 hours doing hockey or spending it with your wife or with your kids. Not that you aren't, but like, it's just your perception and your thinking. And we all focus on certain things. And I think that if we were able to shift that thinking and those patterns some, that we could probably be more content with business and life and our marriages and finances and where it's heading next year and retirement and everything else. It's just that we're so engaged with everything that we do that it's hard to step away from it. It's hard. I know it's very difficult for me to separate business, work, and life, because so much of my life and what I find joy in revolves around work. And I don't think it's like workaholic, so to speak, in air quotes. It's just that, like, when I build something and I stand back and I see it, that does bring me like this sense of joy and accomplishment that's very difficult to find somewhere else. So now to separate myself from that entirely is a difficult thing to do.
You're 100% correct. I mean, I think it's a problem, and I have to do. The reason why I think it's a problem is that some days I can do it very well, other days I struggle at it, and more importantly, I don't know how to get that mindset and that drive to people that work for us.
Yeah,
it's just not going to be there. And how am I going to settle? And how am I going to be? It's like, Nick, when you first started with that staircase, that you were like, "This is how long it would take me to do." Mm-hmm. It took my guys 2 weeks longer. It's the same thing. I'm setting myself up for, just to be let down. Where it's like, all right, like, have you called this guy? I have my own systems that honestly were ingrained in me by horrible bosses. Like I was like, you get screamed at. I was never a guy that would sit there and pout. I need to work harder. Right. It's just how I always was, and that's put me in this place where I just go. And I do feel like, Tyler, I think I wrote that down somewhere, is that in the beginning I really thought that I brought value to situations because I would work longer and harder than other people. And now I find that the relationships that I have with my clients and stuff, that is the value I bring. And the product, no matter who or what it is, the product will always be the same. It'll be a high-end product that's well executed by great people. But what separates us from everyone else is that execution comes along with a great relationship and how that experience is met. I don't know if I can break it down enough for me. I'm looking at you, Nick, because it's like, I don't know if me answering the phone on the weekends is going to change the game for them. Right. I also don't think that I handle it. Expectations is something I wrote down, was that right now when I have a new client and we're getting into it, emails I feel like is just a bunch of junk in my email. So I send people right to my text message, so they'll be texting me. And yeah, if I'm near my phone at 8 p.m. and my kids are in bed, I'll text them back. And I know that's about setting boundaries, and I suck at that because I would rather not. I feel like in my head, I'd rather just answer that right now because it's just a friendly conversation. But I'm setting the wrong expectations right then and there.
Because the moment it's not friendly, it's still expected.
But it's
and that's the problem.
But I look at it where when the morning rolls around, I already have the morning already teed up. Yeah. So if I wait to answer that text, I'm going to answer that in a different mentality than I will at night. I mean, again, I know it's not right.
Right.
That's how I feel, where I do a lot of stuff right away, because if I prolong it, I won't have it. I'll forget the thought. I'll forget where I was at with it.
And I feel like that's what I would do, is like you'd answer them right away consistently. And then when things went astray or there was an issue, or all of a sudden the client became rude, then it's like, you can't just stop answering it. Like you said, you set the wrong example or expectation.
Well, you set the expectation up for it to always be good.
Where it's
never.
Yeah. It's tough.
No, and I know I do it right now, where you get people texting me, and it's like, you have clients that are on the West Coast. It's like, all right, and then you have clients that, hey, they work and they're traveling all week, so they're only available on the weekend. Yeah. Like, I'm trying to get off of that kick, where it's like, hey, I've done it where Sundays is just Sundays. It's just, I don't care. And people will be like, hey, I never heard from you on Sunday. It's like, I got to correct this. Like, it's my bad. But then there's that burden that I have. Where am I?
Yeah, you feel guilty for it. And it doesn't make sense why you would feel guilty for taking time to yourself or not catering to your customers' needs 100% of the time. Like, they're hiring you. They should be hiring you for certain hours in a day. And they should understand if you're not available for other hours. It's like, you're not a literal slave. Like, there's nothing else where you hire anyone and if you have to go to the emergency room, go to the emergency room. If you hire somebody who cleans your house, if you hire a chiropractor, if you hire, somebody to take care of your car, it's not like you can text them or get a hold of them at 11:30 on a Sunday night and expect a response from them. But it's just, we've gotten so used to being those people, and that for you, it's, hey, if I get this done now, I can get a jump on tomorrow.
Yeah.
For me, it's, hey, if I get this off my plate right now, I don't have to sit here and think about it all night and worry about what their response is, or if they're going to be upset, or if they're going to object to it. So like everyone has their own reasons for doing that. And it always seems just easier to follow through and doing that way. But it's probably the same thing as kids. You know, if my kids whine, it's way easier to just give them what they want. Like they shut up and they don't whine anymore. But then I have to deal with that whining for 18 years. You know, if I spend a year battling them where it's like, you don't get what you want when you whine, then I only have to deal with that whining for 1 year. You know, I just bought myself 17 years worth. It's like short term versus long term. But we've just gotten so used to saying, hey, this is just going to be easier now if I do it this way, rather because that's just what's easier for John's life at this moment, not John's entire career.
Yeah. Tyler, I know we probably could keep going on this, but I hear that it's your birthday.
Oh, yeah, yesterday, 34.
Yeah, and someone's got dinner all cooked and ready for you.
Yeah, we're going out. So I have like
that's what I meant. The restaurant's got to cook and ready.
You were close on both those.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. No, so I have family downstairs early for once, but I'm getting a text message that the gang's all here.
All right. Well, dude,
I should start ignoring these text messages.
Those are the ones you can't.
Those are the ones. Yeah, exactly. Well, happy birthday again. And
thanks, guys.
It's good to be back, guys. We had a little 2-week hiatus, but
I think it'll be good too, because I think a lot of people want to hear this stuff and how we deal with it, and a lot of people see what we do, and it's just that Nick has this going, or John landed this many square foot build, or whatever it may be, and they don't realize that internally we're struggling with life just as much as anyone else is. So and true. Trying to find what works and systems, and you know what appears on paper and on social media and on the internet isn't necessarily always the case. And I don't think that it's us kind of hiding that or putting up a false front or a facade. I just think that you're just trying to move ahead and trying to keep things going and keep it as professional as possible, and you don't always slow down enough to talk about these things.
Well, I think it's a nice balance. Like these, I'm going to call them mental health episodes, are a nice balance to the more traditional trade-oriented conversations.
For sure.
Awesome, dude.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Happy birthday, boss.
Thank you. Dude. See ya.
We have a handful of good guests coming up, I believe. I know we got a drywaller coming up.
Oh yeah.
Steve Basic is on the schedule.
Big Steve Basic.
You know, were you there in that conversation? He said that we should plan for 3+ hours.
He's emailed me numerous times.
I'm afraid
give me a dry
of that.
The best part about that podcast is he's going to give us all these notes, and we're not going to use any of them because we don't want people to prep for the podcast.
I know. That's what I said. He's like, I'll send you them. I'm like, please don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm like, because I don't have self-control. I will open it.
Yeah.
So Steve, exactly. if you're listening, please don't email me that. No, it was good to be back. No, I was going to apologize for skipping 2 weeks, but no apologies here.
No.
We all took some time.
We didn't plan it. We just didn't have time for it, and it.
Well, hopefully you guys had a good holiday season. Happy New Year, whether it's a new year, new you, or new year, same you. It's 2020, and we appreciate you guys listening.
Yep, we do. We do.
Should we pull up a review? Did we get any?
I think we did, actually. I looked earlier.
All right, you pull it up. I'll read it. In the meantime, you can find us on the web, themoderncraftsman.org. You can email us at info@themoderncraftsman.org. PSA, I forgot to pay the email bill a couple months ago. So if you had emailed us and did not get a response, send it again. And then the period Modern Craftsman on Instagram. And just a few weeks away, we're going to be in Las Vegas for International Builder Show.
Yes.
I know we got a couple things going on out there, but I think this year we're going to make a heavy effort to making sure we're networking vendors and individuals and spending a little bit more, quote unquote, quality time with people.
Chilling out.
All right, so we got a review from Jake, 5 stars. Life-affirming, vocationally transformative, and completely entertaining. Number 55, stay tuned and listen to the kidnapped cat and hostage alpaca cap. That was a great episode. I'm glad he called out what number it was. Yeah, there was definitely a kidnapped cat on that one. Thanks for the awesome content. I was in a bad spot contemplating going back to work for the devil, a.k.a. Dr. Horton, when I found this podcast. What is Dr. Horton?
I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to... either way. Hearing the guys and guests talk about going through the same BS I've been through is oddly therapeutic. P.S. Tyler sounds exactly like Owen Wilson. Thanks, guys, from Tut Campbell. And one more. I'm a bags-on partner in a small remodeling business. These guys reinforce my values of hard work, quality, and professionalism. They are incredibly intelligent and deliberate in their approach to their business. John is like your older brother who will make fun of you and then put his arm around you and offer a helping hand. Nick is the professor, and Tyler is like your little brother who constantly cuts up. Every episode, I take notes to improve myself and my business. These guys are what the industry needs. Really appreciate it, guys. Oh, we got a question. Let me see here. One more. Love the podcast, guys. It is one of my favorite things and something I look forward to every single week. As a very green PM, this is such a great platform to learn from some of the best in the business, as has challenged me to learn to do things the right way. I do have one question, though. As a veteran, I only have 36 months of school in my GI Bill. And in y'all's opinion, what form of school do you guys suggest? A trade school or something of that sort to get my bachelor's degree in project management? I think that depends. As far as project management, you don't necessarily need a bachelor's, but it would be beneficial to...
I mean, I think anything that's educational towards your goal will be helpful. It'll cut down on actually what happens on the field, and it give you more time to focus in the field. I think both are absolutely critical, where maybe you take night classes, but yet you're in the field doing stuff. That's priceless education.
Yeah, because there's two different PMs to it. There's a very...
lead carpenter
to PM, and then there's more of kind of like the engineer to PM.
Yeah.
And that's, if you want to take a more hands-on approach, vocational school would be a great first step, and then seeing if that transitions you into being a carpenter to lead to PM, or if it brings you to college and getting a bachelor. So
hope that helped.
Yeah. Well, appreciate it, guys. As always, we take those reviews on iTunes, and that's where we read them. We always read a handful at the end of every episode. Hope to see you guys in Las Vegas, and we will see you or talk to you next week.
Damn right. Thanks for listening, guys.